Oh, 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 oh. Wow. How's life in DGG world? What? You've just been walking around making noise all day. What do you want? You don't want anything. Meow, 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 meow. Honey, oh my God, he's coming up. He's absolutely coming up. I can see it in his eyeballs. I can see it in his opticals. Ooh. Blah, 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 blah. Ooh. Okay. Yep, it's time. Let's go. Oh, yeah. No, not. Yeah. Look at that. Hell yeah. Hell yes. Give me a kiss. Hey, honey. Oh. Fuck you. Look at this absolute. Look at this absolute unit. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. I got a cat brush for him yesterday. Oof. We went through this. We went through this guy. And he's so soft now. Oh, my gosh. Okay. What type of cat is it? I don't fucking know. Honey, what type of cat are you? They're all just cats to me. Hello. Hello, baby. Yeah, I saw that Nvidia stock. What's going on? Dan's taking his revenge. Speaking of Nvidia, okay, I figured out more because I just have no idea. I don't know anything about workstation cards. So this other card that I bought is part of the Ada lines of Nvidia cards, the Ada Lovelace architecture. Okay. So I bought an A4000, I think. Wait, hold on. Okay. So these are nice because apparently they are, or at least the one that I have is like low power consumption. Yeah, it's like low power consumption, and it has dual, I think, AV1 encoders on board, or it can encode like dual streams or whatever. However, other people are saying that that these guys are good. I don't know anything about the Intel shit. If I'm just trying to buy cards for like encoding, what is the what am I looking for? Like, how do I know what the good shit is? Did you hear some VTuber drama with a musician allegedly spiking drinks? Nope. The Intel GPUs are only good for the AV1 stuff. Yeah, which is all I'm planning on using them for, right? The Intel encoder is the best quality AV1 encoder. However, I don't know how good they are at simultaneous multi-encode for high quality streams. I mean, really, there's only one stream that really matters. Why are you getting another one? For the studio. I need this. These cards are power hungry. Power consumption in the studio doesn't matter as much, I guess. Although I might be looking for low PCI consumption because I don't know how many lanes I actually have available on that motherboard. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I didn't look at the processor yet. Oh, I talked a lot about some tech stuff with the T3 guy who came over, and he put a word to something that I didn't understand before. And oh my God, let me just say this, okay, before we say anything else. I love Dan. Dan is amazing. He's a great guy, and I love his diverse field of interests, okay? However, there are these things that I've used in the past, and I didn't know that there was like a name for these things. I just thought they were like wheelie things, but they're called C-stands. I've used these, and I even have an extra one. I didn't know that there was a standard mount for monitors. No, it's not Viso. What am I thinking of? There's a standard mount for the backs of monitors, and I could just use a C-stand to mount a monitor on instead of all these weird, janky, kind of like constructed things. Oh, VESA. Oh my God, what a fucking lifesaver. These things plus like a solid C-stand like obliterates everything in terms of trying to actually set shit up instead of using weird janky fucking stands or whatever. It's pronounced Visa? Yeah. This shit, hell the fuck yeah. ADA, A770 versus like a versus one of these things. Ooh, these are way too expensive. This is not worth it. Yeah, I don't know. I just see something they're going to code for the YouTube stream. It's not like a huge deal. It's not like a big, like just like a little card that has like hardware encoding. Because right now I've got a 1080 Ti, which I don't think has any onboard hardware encoding. And if it does, it's probably not very good, so. I'm the one that recommended you the RTX 4000 SFF. The reason I did not recommend the A770 was due to reported issues with dual streaming. Interesting. There is also better support for OBS plugins. Which has better support for OBS plugins, the A770 or the RTX 4000? Please disregard everyone saying that the Intel cards are power hungry. They're fine. Please check out the RTX 2000 SFF. It has 1 times encoder plus 1 AV1 encoder. You should look at that. RTX 2000. Is this on the newest architecture still, or is this an architecture behind? How do you determine what is or isn't worth the price? I'd assume with your income, I just get the most decked out expensive thing. Is it just a mental thing? Nah, different tools excel in different areas. You can't just throw more money at things and have them be better, unfortunately. How old is the kitty? I think he's 4 years old. Isn't this architecture like one generation behind, or is that not true? There's RTX. Okay, I'll compare these later. Is honey on the desk an ongoing thing? I don't know. It just depends on his moods. RTX 2000 is 2 generations behind. Why was Ninu crashing out in the chat yesterday? Wait, what happened?
Versus X264 on the very slow CPU usage preset, the CPU SVT AV1 encoder, and Intel's GPU AV1 encoder. I chose very slow for X2.
How do other people with podcasts set up similar to yours, fresh and fit, H3, etc., compared to your current setup / plan setup? I think we probably have. I think we have the most sophisticated non-producer setup on the market. I don't know anybody that does it that can live stream a podcast like we can with any decent amount of quality. I think our audio is as good as it can be. I don't know anybody. We don't do any weird like post processing to eliminate shit. I think our audio sounds good. Yeah, I think the cameras are good. I think everything's fine. The set could be cuter, but.
264 here.
Logan Paul? The fuck is this?
Because it's a kind of unobtainium benchmark of dream quality for many, and it's near impossible to run in real time due to the specific options that it uses. Placebo is the only step beyond it for X264, and it definitely can't be run real time, and sometimes actually scores marginally lower than very slow in this testing anyway. The data is measured using Netflix's VMAF quality analysis framework.
What did you think of the studio Sam Harris said you go to? It sounded pretty good. It was not good. It was just a microphone into an interface. It wasn't even like a full-on studio. The only reason why that might have sounded good to you is because it's probably ultra compressed. I think they did a lot of post-processing on those microphones to make it sound a certain way.
This video, but basically it compares your samples to a completely uncompressed lossless sample of video and measures how a viewer would perceive the quality difference on a scale.
DisplayPort can be split up like USB using an MST hub. Wait, really?
Of 0 to 100, with 0 being just unwatched. Different scenarios of common bitrate limited, and I suggest differences matter even less. AM for overall quality.
Okay, I don't know. Fuck all this shit. All right. How did the talk with the Sam Harris crew go? Pretty well. We'll see what comes up in the future. Bear in mind that consumer NVIDIA cards limit the amount of displays you can use at once to 4. Yeah, I think I'm embracing the concept of using HDMI splitters. I think I have, I ordered a few of those. I'll probably go downstairs tonight and start fucking with that shit. Honey baby. Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on. If I go somewhere, you're gonna stay here or you're gonna chase me? Chill. Oh boy, good luck.
From their standpoint, I don't know if you know that.
Why are these things starting at timestamps?
From their standpoint,
Why would this start at 34 seconds? What is the point of that? Does it mean I've clicked this already or past the intro? Because you hovered it. Oh, you can do this on this screen now. Oh, crazy. Technology.
China was afraid. Russia was.
I don't know if you know this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
A lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
I believe you have to fight fire with fire.
Politics is a dirty game.
It is a dirty game. It's certainly true.
How do you win at that game?
They suffer from massive Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, and I don't know if it's curable from their standpoint.
I think we'd probably have a better world if everybody in Congress took some mushrooms, perhaps.
First of all, medical marijuana has been amazing. It's been, I've had friends and I've had others and doctors telling me that it's been absolutely amazing.
The list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah?
The following is a conversation with Donald Trump on this, the Lex Fridman podcast.
They're getting smaller and smaller.
They're getting smaller.
Right?
I mean, people do respect you more when you have a big camera for some
No,
reason.
it's cool. And about 20 guys that you pay a fortune to, right?
All right. Yeah. You said that you love winning, and you have won a lot in life, in real estate, in business, in TV, in politics. So let me start with a mindset, a psychology question. What drives you more, the love of winning or the hate of losing?
Maybe equally, maybe both. I don't like losing, and I do like winning. I've never thought of it as to which is more of a driving force.
You've been close with a lot of the greats in sport. You think about Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali. You have people like Michael Jordan, who I think...
Scalpers. I once camped out for a graphics card. 10 cards available, 40 people in line. The next day, I saw a listing for it on Facebook, sold by one of the campers. Is the 11th guy in line right to blame the scalper? Maybe.
hate losing more than anybody.
you, honey.
So what do you learn from those guys?
Well, they do have something different. You know, the great champions have something very different, like the sports champions. And, you know, you have champions in other fields, but you see it more readily in sports. You see it over a weekend, or you see it during a game. And you see that certain people stand out, and they keep standing out. But it's there for you. It doesn't take a lifetime to find out that somebody was a winner or a loser. And so the sports thing is very interesting. But, you know, I play golf with different people, and there's a different mindset among champions. There's really a very different mindset. There's a different thought process. You know, talent-wise, sometimes you can't tell the difference in talent, but at the end of a weekend, they seem to win. And it's very
Wait, is it going to say anything?
interesting. Like as an example, Tiger or Jack Nicklaus, he was a phenomenal winner, and he does have a different way about him. And Tiger has a different way about him. And Michael Jordan. And there's never one. You would think that there'd be one way. Arnold Palmer was the nicest guy you'd ever meet, and then you have some champions that aren't really nice. They're just focused on doing their job. So you have, you know, there's not one type of person. But the one thing I would say that everybody seems to have in common is they're very driven. They're driven like beyond.
They don't seem to give up easily.
They don't give up.
Still conservative, yet still got your back. Stay true to yourself, man. Someone has to keep shit in check and balance. Wow, thanks, harmless ghost. I do my best.
They don't give up, but they do seem to be, you know, they have a passion that's maybe more than people that don't do as well.
You said that politics is a dirty game in the past.
It is a dirty game. It's certainly true.
So if it is a game, how do you win at that game?
Well, you win at that game by getting the word out and by using sense. You have to have a feeling where it's going. You also have to have a feeling of what's right. You can't necessarily just go what's popular. You have to do what's good for a country if you're talking about countries. But you have to get the word out, and you have to just continuously, like, for instance, you have a great show, you have a great podcast. It's very well watched, and I'm sitting here and I do this. A lot of people see it, and I do other things, and a lot of people see that. And I go traditional also. You know, you have traditional television, which is getting a little bit older and maybe less significant. Could be less significant. I don't know. But it's changing a lot. The whole plane of platform is changing a lot. It's changed a lot in the last 2-3 years. But from a political standpoint, you have to find out what people are doing, what they're watching, and you have to get it. You have to get on. I just
What? Hold on, sorry. I need to.
necessarily just go what's popular. You have to do what's good for a country if you're talking about countries. But you have to get the word out, and you have to just continuously, like, for instance, you have a great show, you have a great podcast. It's very well watched, and I'm sitting here and I do this. A lot of people see it, and I do other things, and a lot of people see that. And I go traditional also. You know, you have traditional television, which is getting a little bit older and maybe less significant. Could be less significant. I don't know. But it's changing a lot. The whole plane of platform is changing a lot. It's changed a lot in the last 2-3 years. But from a political standpoint, you have to find out what people are doing, what they're watching, and you have to get it. You have to get on. I just see that these platforms are starting to dominate. They're getting very big numbers. I did Spaces with Elon, and they got numbers like nobody's ever heard before. So, you know, this is, you wouldn't do that on, like, radio. You wouldn't do that, those numbers, no matter how good a show. You wouldn't do those numbers on radio. You wouldn't do them on television.
You've been successful in business. You've been successful in politics. What do you think is the difference between...
How many viewers does a nationally syndicated radio show get? Is there any internet podcast that has live viewership that rivals radio yet? Or cable TV? Does he know how many viewers you get on cable TV and radio? But Okay.
How good a show. You wouldn't do those numbers on radio. You wouldn't do them on television.
You've been successful in business. You've been successful in politics. What do you think is the difference between gaining success between the two different disparate worlds?
Yeah, and
Oh, Elon claimed 1 billion views on his Trump space. Oh, because of how Twitter counts views. Oh, okay.
it's different, very different. I have a lot of people that are in business that are successful, and they'd like to go over to politics. And then you realize they can't speak. They choke. It's hard to make a speech in front of that. Let's say you're talking about a big audience, but I get very big audiences. And, for many people, it's virtually impossible to get up and speak for an hour and a half and have nobody leave. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's an ability. But I have many people that are very, very successful in business, would love to do what I did, and yet they can't pull the trigger. And in many cases, I don't think it would work. Almost for everybody, it's not going to work. It's a very tough thing to do. It's a big transition. And now, if you talked about people in the business and politics going into business, likewise, that wouldn't generally work out so well either. It's different talents, it's different skills. I have somebody who wants to go into politics so bad, but he's got a little problem. He's got stage fright. Now, he's a total killer, but if he gets up into a stage in front of people, he doesn't do well. To put it mildly, actually. I mean, he does badly.
So you have to be able to make hard decisions like you do in business, but also be able to captivate an audience.
Look, if you're a politician, you have to be able to speak in front of large crowds. There are a lot of people who can't do that. I've seen it. They can't even think about doing it. And they don't. There are many people in business right now, I can name them, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. They've been talking about running for president for 15 years. And they're very big in business, very well known, actually. But it takes guts to run. Like for president, I can tell you it takes guts to run. It's also a very dangerous profession, if you want to know the truth, but dangerous in a different sense, too. But it takes a lot of courage to run for president. It's not easy, but you have, and the same people as I do, there are a lot of people that would like to run for president.
Has he always done his makeup like this, or is he usually just seen like from the front? It's a pretty wacky. For as much as we make fun of women sometimes that mismatched foundation, like, geez, we're moving a lot of shades of orange here.
And are very, very successful in business, but they don't have the guts to do it. And they have to give up a lot.
One of the great things about people from the business world is they're often great deal makers. And you're a great deal maker. And you've talked about the war in Ukraine and that you will be able to find a deal that both Putin and Zelensky would accept. What do you think that deal looks like?
I think the deal, and I wouldn't talk about it too much because I think I can make a deal. If I win as president-elect, I'll have a deal made. Guaranteed. That's a war that shouldn't have happened. It's terrible. Look, Biden is the worst president in the history of our country.
Sorry.
And she's probably worse than him. That's something that should have never happened. But it did happen. And now it's a much tougher deal to make than it would have been before it started. Millions of people. I think the number's going to be a lot higher when you see this all at some point iron out. I think the death number's going to be a lot higher than people think. When you take a look at the destruction and the buildings coming down all over the place in Ukraine, I think those numbers are going to be a lot higher. They lie about the numbers. They try and keep them low. They knock down a building that's 2 blocks long. These are big buildings. And they say one person was mildly injured. No. A lot of people were killed. And there are people in those buildings, and they have no chance. Once they start coming down, there's no chance. So that's a war that absolutely has to get done. And then you have Israel, and then you have a lot of other places that are talking war. The world is a rough place right now. And a lot of it's because of the fact that America has no leadership. And I believe that she'll be probably worse than right now. Watched the interview the other night. I mean, it was just a softball interview.
So you would like to see her do more interviews, challenge more?
I don't know. I can't believe the whole thing is happening. We had a man in there that should have never been in there. They kept him in a basement. They used COVID. They cheated, but they used COVID to cheat. And they cheated without COVID, too. But you had some softball interview.
So you would like to see her do more interviews, challenge more?
I don't know. I can't believe the whole thing is happening. We had a man in there that should have never been in there. They kept him in a basement. They used COVID. They cheated, but they used COVID to cheat. And they cheated without COVID, too.
Okay, rigged election still. Glad we still have that. This is why I will never stop pushing on this, by the way. When people are like, oh, why wouldn't you just let it go? Because you haven't let it go, motherfuckers. Once you guys let it go, then I'll let it go. But until then, no, I am going to roast the fuck out of you. Make fun of you about it for the entire time. Because you guys will never let this go. It's fucking retarded.
But you had somebody in there, and now we have a woman that is not, I mean, she couldn't do...
Is he going to answer any question, do you think? Do you think he'll answer any question with any amount of substance?
An interview. This was a really soft interview. This is an interview where they're given a multiple choice questions, multiple guess. I call it multiple guess. And I don't think she did well. I think she did very poorly.
How do you think you'll do in the debate coming up? It's in a few days.
So I've done a lot of debating, only as a politician. I never debated. My first debate was the Rosie O'Donnell debate, right? The famous Rosie O'Donnell debate, the answer. But I've done well with debates. I mean,
that's how he remembers that debate, was the insult that he used about Rosie O'Donnell. That's his famous, the Rosie O'Donnell debate. My God.
I became president. Then the second time I got millions more votes than I got the first time. So I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that and lost by a whisker. And look what happened to the world with all of the wars and all of the problems. And look what happened with inflation, because inflation's just eating up our country, eating it up. So it's too bad. But there are a lot of things that could happen. We have to get those wars settled. We have to get...
I know that Americans like to complain about inflation. You guys realize we're like crushing Europe when it comes to like economy and like rebound from COVID, right? Like it's not even close. Like we are obliterating Europe when it comes to dealing with these issues. I know that we like to complain about shit, but my God.
I'll tell you, you have to get Ukraine done. That could end up in a third world war. So could the Middle East.
So maybe let's talk about what it takes to negotiate with somebody like Putin or Zelensky. Do you think Putin would be willing to give up any of the regions they already captured?
I don't know. I can tell you that all of this would have never happened, and it would have been very easy because you don't have, like, that question wouldn't be asked.
Do you think Putin would be willing to? Oh, maybe let's talk about what it takes to negotiate with somebody like Putin or Zelensky. Do you think Putin would be willing to give up any of the regions they already captured?
I don't know. I can tell you that all of this would have never happened, and it would have been very easy because you don't have, like, that question wouldn't be asked. That's a tougher question. Once that starts happening, because he has taken over a lot of territory. Now, I guess they're insurgents now too, right? So, it's a little bit interesting.
No, wait, what does that mean? Now they're insurgents too? What?
That's happening, and that it can happen. And it's interesting that Putin has allowed that to happen. Look, that's one that should have never started. We have to get it.
Oh, when Ukraine invaded Russia. Now that Putin has allowed that to happen, what does that even mean? The thing is, I can't even read deeply like he's dog whistling because I don't think he can dog whistle. Let's see if this interview changes my mind. I firmly believe that Donald Trump is like an 85 to 95 IQ person. I think he's around there. I think he's around 90 IQ. That's my guess. I really do believe he's below average intelligence.
Interesting that's happening, and that it can happen. And it's interesting that Putin has allowed that to happen. Look, that's one that should have never started. We have to get it stopped. Ukraine is being demolished. They're destroying a great culture that's largely destroyed.
What do you think works better in those kinds of negotiations? Leverage of, let's say, friendship, the carrot or the stick? Friendship, or sort of the threat of using the economic and military power?
So it depends on who the person is. Everyone's different. Negotiation's interesting because it depends on who the person is. And then you have to guess or know through certain knowledge which is, more important, the carrot or the stick. And with some people it's the stick, and with some people it's the carrot. I think the stick probably is generally more successful in that, we're talking about war. But the kind of destruction that we're witnessing now, nobody's ever seen. I mean, it's a terrible thing. And we're witnessing it all over. We're witnessing it in all parts of the world. And a lot of things are going to get started. Look what's going on with China. Look at Japan. They're starting to rearm now. They're starting to rearm because China's getting, taking over certain islands. And there's a lot of danger in the war right now in the world. There's a great possibility of World War III. And we better get this thing done fast because 5 months with people like her and him, he's checked out. He just goes to the beach and thinks he looks good in a bathing suit, which he...
How many times did Trump go golfing that these guys are ever going to complain about anybody taking a vacation ever? I think he's more lazy than stupid. He doesn't care enough to look into anything deeply. No. He's stupid. He's lazy, but he's also stupid. He's less lazy than he is stupid, guaranteed. Because if he was more intelligent, he could at least fabricate a better answer, or he'd be smart enough to at least read a paragraph on these things.
He doesn't. He sort of checked out. Hey, look, you can't blame him. That was a coup. They took it over. They took over the presidential deal. The whole presidential thing was taken over in a coup. He had 14 million votes. She had no votes, not one. And nobody thought it was going to be her. Nobody wanted it to be her. She was a joke until 6 weeks ago when they said we're going to have to, politically, they felt they had to pick her. And if they didn't pick her, they thought there'd be a problem. I don't know if that's right or not. I actually don't think it's right, but, they thought it was right. And now immediately the press comes to their aid. If
we can go back to China on negotiation, how do we avoid war with China in the 21st century?
Well, there are ways now. Here's the problem. If I tell you how...
I can't say anything.
And I'd love to do it, but... If I give you a plan, I have a very exacting plan how to stop Ukraine and Russia, and I have a certain idea, maybe not a plan, but an idea for China, because we're in a lot of trouble. They'll be in a lot of trouble too, but we're in a lot of trouble. But I can't give you those plans because if I give you those plans, I'm not going to be able to use them. They'll be very unsuccessful. Part of it's surprise, right?
Right.
But they won't be able to help us much.
So you have a plan of what to say to Putin?
Yeah, I know.
Take office.
No, I had a very good relationship with him, and I had a good relationship with Zelensky too. But I had a very good relationship with Putin.
Tough topic, but important. You said lost by a whisker. I'm an independent. I have a lot of friends who are independent, many of whom like your policies, like the fact that you're a deal maker, like the fact that you can end wars, but they are troubled by what happened in the 2020 election and statements about widespread fraud and this kind of stuff, fake elector scheme. What can you say to those independent voters to help them decide who to vote for?
I think the fraud was on the other side. I think the election was a fraud, and many people felt it was that, and they wanted answers. And when you can't challenge an election, you have to be able to challenge it. Otherwise, it's going to get worse, not better. And there are lots of ways to solve this problem. Go to paper ballots and do it the easy way. I mean, there
already were backups for paper ballots for everything, but
ballots, and
they already did recounts where you thought machines miscounted and they didn't miscount.
And there are lots of ways to solve this problem. Go to paper ballots and do it the easy way. I mean, paper ballots, and you have voter ID and you have same-day voting. and you have proof of citizenship, which is very important because
Wait, is he actually this retarded? I've never really heard him speak before, aside from short clips. For example, I studied Brian Mulroney for a Canadian history course in uni, and watching him speak made me so depressed because politicians used to be decently intelligent. Yeah, I don't think he's retarded. I think he's below average intelligence. Like he's not even like of average, he's below average of intelligence. I think it explains a bit in terms of like how he navigates and how he speaks and what he speaks to.
we have people voting that are not citizens. They just came in, and they're loading up the payrolls. They're loading up everything. They're putting students in schools. They don't speak a word of English. And they're taking the seats of people that are citizens of our country. So, look, we have the worst border in the history of the world. We have coming into our country right now millions and millions of people at levels that nobody's ever seen. I don't believe any country's ever seen it. And they would use sticks and stones not to make it happen, not to let it happen. We don't do anything. And we have a person who was a border czar, who now said she wasn't really the border czar, but she was. She was the border czar, but she was in charge of the border. And we have her, and she's saying very strongly, oh, I did such a good job. She was horrible, horrible. The harm she's done. But we have people coming in from other countries all over the world, not just South America, and they're coming in from prisons and jails. They're coming in from mental institutions and insane asylums. And they're street criminals right off the street.
But to vote for him, you have to be retarded? No, listen, the guy with 90 IQ is a king in the land of the Downies, okay? So smart enough.
They take them. And they're being given to our country. Drug dealers, human traffickers. We're destroying our country. This is a sin what's been allowed to take place over the last 4 years. We're destroying our country. And we'll see how that all works out. But it's not even believable. And now you saw in Aurora, Colorado, a group of very tough young thugs from Venezuela taking over big areas, including buildings.
Why does Lex show a picture of this? What?
Taking over buildings. They have their big rifles, but they're taking over buildings. We're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let them destroy our country. And in those countries, crime is way down. They're taking them out of their prisons, which is good because good for them. I do the same thing. By the way, if I ran one of those countries, any country in the world, I would make sure that America has every one of our prisoners. Every one of our criminals would be here. I can't believe they're going so slowly, but some aren't. But they all are doing it. And we can't let that happen. They're emptying out their prisons, and they're meant.
This was debunked so fucking hard. Please read the story. It's fake as fuck. This is a debunked story. Yeah, okay, maybe. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but
Mental institutions into the United States of America. We can't let that happen.
So a lot of people believe that there was some shady stuff that went on with the election, whether it's media bias or big tech, but still the claim of widespread fraud is the thing that bothers people.
Well, I don't focus on the past. I focus on the future. I mean, I talk about how bad the economy is, how bad inflation is.
didn't you say over and over again that the election was like stolen, that there was fraud, COVID and non-COVID fraud?
How bad things like, which is important. Afghanistan was, in my opinion, the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to our country. And because of that, I think Putin went in. When he said how stupid we were, Putin went in. But it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. I really believe that. But, we left 13 dead soldiers. Think of it, 13 dead soldiers, many soldiers horrifically hurt with arms and legs and everything else gone. We left hostages behind. We left Americans behind. We left military equipment, the likes of which nobody's ever left behind before. Billions and billions of dollars of equipment. They're now selling the equipment. They're one of the largest arms dealers in the world. And very sad, very sad. And we were there for a long time. I was going to get out. We were getting ready to get out. Then we got interrupted by the election. But we would have been out with dignity and strength. We were having very little problem with the Taliban when I was there.
We were getting ready to get out? What do you mean? You negotiated the timetable. What are you talking about?
Because they knew it was going to be tough. I dealt with Abdul. Abdul was the leader. And we got along fine. He understood. But, they were shooting. They were killing a lot of our people before I came down. And when I got there, I spoke to him. I said, can't do it. Don't do it anymore. We went 18 months before this happened. This horrible day happened. We went 18 months and nobody was shot at or killed.
What do you think that was, the carrot or the stick in that case in Afghanistan?
The stick, definitely
so
the stick.
Threat of military force.
That was the stick, yeah. It doesn't have to be, but that was the stick.
Well, let me just linger on the election a little bit more. For this election, it might be a close one. What can we do to avoid the insanity and division of the previous election, whether you win or lose?
Well, I hope it's not a close one. I mean, I don't know how people can vote for somebody that has destroyed our country. The inflation, the bad economy, but to me, in a way, the worst is what they've allowed to happen at our border, where they've allowed millions of people to come in here from places that you don't want to know about. And I can't believe that that's going to be a close election. We're leading in the polls, and it looks close, but I think in the end, it's not going to be a close election.
What do you think is the right way to solve the immigration crisis? Is mass deportation one of the solutions you would think about?
Well, you've got to get the criminals out of here fast, right? The people from mental institutions, you got to get them back into their mental institution. No country can afford this. It's just too much money. You look at what's happening in New York and Chicago and LA and lots of places, and you take a look at what's happening. There's no country can afford this. We can't afford it. And we've got to get the bad ones out immediately
Yeah.
And the rest have to be worked on.
True.
You know, it's happened before. Dwight Eisenhower was sort of a moderate president, moderate type.
He gets 5 IQ bumps from me. I'm surprised he even knows that name. Good job. A+. Good job. He
person, but he hated when he saw people pouring into the country, and they were nothing like now. You know, I probably got elected in 2016 because of the border, and I told people what was happening, and they understood it, and I won the election. And I won the election, I think, because of the border. Our border is 25 times worse right now than it was in 2016. I had it fixed. I had it the last
25 times worse.
week of the famous chart that I put up was exactly that. You know the chart. When I looked to the right, I said, "There's the chart." That was not a pleasant experience, but the chart that I put up said, and it was.
Yesterday when I was fucking my girlfriend. It's 12 inches long. She was screaming over there. He just had to throw that in there. He was so excited to plug his fucking rally, his assassination. He was so excited to plug it. Oh my God.
25 times worse right now than it was in 2016. I had it fixed. I had it the last week of the famous chart that I put up was exactly that. You know the chart. When I looked to the right, I said, "There's the chart." That was not a pleasant experience, but the chart that I put up said, and that was done by Border Patrol, that was the lowest number that we've ever had come into our country in recorded history. And
What is this propaganda piece? Trump clampdown begins. Was anything else? I'm trying to remember. Oh, fuck. Wasn't there some other huge event that happened in 2020? I feel like there was some shit going on. Fuck. Was it Brexit? Was it the Olympics? I can't remember. I'm pretty sure there was something huge going on here that made it so that you could have a hardcore shutdown on immigration. But Hurricane Katrina, maybe? Vietnam? Moon landing? Something was going on here. I don't know, man. Maybe not. I don't know. Never mind, actually. Maybe this was just Trump's policies. Trump's really good policies were shutting it down here. Is this the stupid fucking graph that he had up at his stupid fucking rally?
By Border Patrol, that was the lowest number that we've ever had come into our country.
Illegal immigration into the U.S. Biden world record illegal immigrants, many from prisons and mental institutions, also terrorists. Who writes this? Who writes I bet Trump wrote this. I bet he does know how to work. Like, what would you use for this? PowerPoint or whatever bullshit? Probably. Nothing like this has ever happened to our country before! Exclamation mark. You ever notice how he said, it's so funny. Notice how he says, I probably got elected because of the border. But I'm pretty sure if you actually were to integrate, like if you were to look at how many immigrants entered, compare Trump like 2016 to 2019 to fucking Obama, like 2013 to 2015. Obama's numbers look pretty low here. Also, wait a second. Why does he leave office? Is this when he gave up? Or are my dates wrong? Wasn't January 6th that whole thing we've been studying? Isn't that in 2021? Am I wrong on that? Does Trump just disavow? Does Trump just completely disavow this time period? What is happening here? What? Trump left office in January, February, March of 2020? April or March of 2020? Who was our president? Was it the Patriots? The Lale Lule? Who was running the country in this time period? What? Oh shit, hold on. My screenshot's not very clear.
in recorded history. And we have to get it back to that again. We will.
Let me ask you about Project 2025. So you've publicly said that you don't have any direct connection to Project
Nothing. I know nothing about it. And they know that too. Democrats know that. And
I believe that. I do believe that Trump literally knows nothing about nothing. Yeah.
purposely haven't read it because I want to say to you, I have no idea what it's all about. It's easier than saying I read it and, all of the things. No, I purposely haven't read it. And I've heard about it. I've heard about things that are in there that I don't like. And there's some things in there that everybody would like. But there are things that I don't like at all.
Is he going to say, will you go into anything in particular? He might. I am pausing ahead of time. He asked his kids to teach him about the PowerPoint thing. It's an incredible thing. You can make powerful points. That's why it's PowerPoint. You can make beautiful and powerful points with it like you wouldn't believe.
Connection to
nothing. I know nothing about it. And they know that too. Democrats know that. And I purposely haven't read it because I want to say to you, I have no idea what it's all about. It's easier than saying
I purposefully haven't read it.
I read it and, all of the things. No, I purposely haven't read it. And I've heard about it. I've heard about things that are in there that I don't like. And there's some things in there that everybody would like. But
like what?
There are things that I don't like at all. And I think it's
like what things?
Unfortunate that they put it out, but it doesn't mean anything because it has nothing to do with me. Project 25 has absolutely nothing to do with me.
You posted recently about marijuana.
Okay.
And that you're okay with it being legalized, but it has to be done safely. Can you explain your policy there?
Well, I just put out a paper. And first of all, medical marijuana has been...
Did he just say, I just put out a paper?
Can you explain your policy there?
Well, I just put out a paper. And first of all...
Oh, yeah, Trump? Tell me about it.
Medical marijuana has been amazing. It's been... I've had friends and I've had others and doctors telling me that it's been absolutely amazing, the medical marijuana. And we put out a statement that we can live with the marijuana. It's got to be a certain age. Got to be a certain age to buy it. It's got to be done in a very concerted, lawful way. And the way they're doing it in Florida, I think, is going to be actually good. It's going to be very good. But it's got to be done in a good way. It's got to be done in a clean way. You go into some of these places, like in New York, it smells all marijuana. You've got to have a system where there's control. And I think the way they've done it in Florida is very good.
Do you know anything about psychedelics? So I'm not a drug guy, but I recently did ayahuasca.
Trump is 1,000,000% a prescription drug. If he was to abuse, you can just tell when you look at some people, that's a prescription drug abuser. This is a guy that does Xannies and cocaine, never psychedelic. You can always tell. Trump has never done a psychedelic his whole life. You can just tell him. You can tell the types of drugs that people would do.
Done it in Florida. It's very good.
Do you know anything about psychedelics? So I'm not a drug guy, but I recently did ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that speak to sort of the health benefits and the spiritual benefits of these different psychedelics. Right. I think we'd probably have a better world if everybody in Congress took some mushrooms, perhaps. Now, I know you stay away from all of that stuff. I know also veterans use it for dealing with PTSD and all that kind of stuff. So it's great, and it's interesting that you're thinking about being more accepting of some of these drugs, which don't just have a recreational purpose, but a medical purpose, a treatment purpose.
So we put out a statement today. We're going to put out another one probably next week, be more specific, although I think it's pretty specific. And we'll see how that all goes. That's a referendum coming up in some states, but it's coming up, and we'll see how it does. I will say it's been very hard to beat it. You take a look at the numbers, it's been very hard to beat it. So I think it'll generally pass, but you want to do it in a safe way.
Speaking of marijuana, let me ask you about my good friend Joe Rogan. So you had a bit of tension with him. So when he said nice things about RFK Jr., I think, you've said some not so nice things about Joe. I think that was a bit unfair. And as a fan of Joe, I would love to see you do his podcast because he is legit the greatest conversationalist in the world. So what's the story behind the tension?
I don't think there was any tension. And I've always liked him, but I don't know him. I mean, I only see him when I walk into the arena with Dana and I shake his hand. I see him there and I think he's good at what he does, but I don't know about doing his podcast. I mean, I guess I do it, but I haven't been asked and I'm not asking them, I'm not asking anybody.
It sounds like a challenging negotiation situation.
No, it's not. It's not really a negotiation. And he's sort of a liberal guy, I guess, from what I understand. But he likes Kennedy. This was I found this out before Kennedy came in with us. He's going to be great. Bobby's going to be great. But I like that he likes Kennedy. I do too. He's a different kind of a guy, but he's got some great things going. And I think he's going to be beyond politics. I think he could be quite influential in taking care of some situations that you probably would agree should be taken care of.
The Joe Rogan post is an example. I'd love to get your psychology about behind the tweets and the post on truth. Are you sometimes being intentionally provocative, or are you just speaking your mind? And are there times where you regret some of the truths you've posted? Yeah,
I do. I mean, but not that often, honestly. I do a lot of reposting. The ones you get in trouble with are the reposts because you find down deep they're into some group that you're not supposed to be reposting. You don't even know if those groups are good, bad, or indifferent. But the reposts are the ones that really get you in trouble. When you do your own words, it's sort of easier. But the reposts go very quickly. And if you're going to check every single little symbol, and I don't know, it's worked out pretty well for me. I tell you, it's truth is very powerful. Truth, and it's my platform, and it's been very powerful, very, very powerful. It goes everywhere. I call it my typewriter. That's actually my typewriter.
What are you doing usually when you're composing a truth? Like, are you chilling back on a couch?
Couches, beds,
Okay.
a lot of different things. I mean,
Like late at night and just
I'd like to do some late at night. I'm not a huge sleeper, but whenever I do them, past like,
and just
I'd like to do some late at night. I'm not a huge sleeper, but whenever I do them, past like 3:00, they criticize you the next day. Trump was up truthing. Okay, Trump was truthing at 3:00 in the morning, and there should be no problem with that. And then when you think about time zones, how do they know that you're like, in a time zone like an Eastern zone? So, but every time I do it after like 2 or 3:00, it's like, why is he doing that? But it's gotten, the truth has become a very successful platform, and I like doing it. And it goes everywhere. As soon as I do it, it goes everywhere.
the country seems more divided than ever.
Yeah.
What can you do to help alleviate some of that division?
Well, you can get rid of these two people. They're terrible. They're terrible.
We're very divided. What do we do? Get rid of these motherfuckers. That's what.
Yeah.
What can you do to help alleviate some of that division?
Well, you can get rid of these two people. They're terrible. They're terrible. You don't want to have them running this country. They're not equipped to run it. Joe, it's a disaster, okay? And Kamala, I think she'll end up being worse than him. We'll see. I think a lot's now, the convention's over.
Why does he say we'll see? He keeps saying that. We'll see if she's worse. But are you planning on losing?
And I see I'm leading in just about all the polls now. They had their little honeymoon period, as they call it. And we'll see how that all goes. Who knows?
From my personal opinion, I think you are at your best when you're talking about a positive vision of the future versus criticizing the other side.
Yeah. I think you have to criticize, though. I think they're nasty. They came up with a story that I looked down and I called soldiers that died in World War I suckers and losers. Okay. Now, number one, who would say that? Number two, who would say it to military people? Nobody. It was a made-up story. It was just a made-up story. And they like to repeat it over again. They know it was made up. I have 26 witnesses that nothing was said. They don't want to hear about that. Like she lied on McDonald's. She said that she worked at McDonald's. It's not a big lie, but it's a big lie. It's so, they just went and they checked. And unless you can show something, they don't talk about, the press isn't going to follow up with it, but I'll keep hammering it.
Hold on.
But she never worked at McDonald's. It was just a, sort of a cool thing to say, hey, I worked at McDonald's, But one of the worst was 2 days ago, I went to Arlington at the request of people that lost their children. There'll always be children to those people. You understand that. That's not politically incorrect thing to say. The mother comes up, I lost my child. But, the child is a soldier. And lost.
Like, people make fun of, God, I just hate conservatives that make fun of anybody, the way anybody speaks. Just listen to these sentences.
That's not politically. Arlington at the request of people that lost their children. There'll always be children to those people. You understand that. That's not politically incorrect thing to say. The mother comes up, I lost my child. But, the child is a soldier. And
What are we even talking about? What are we even referring to, right? Like, what is politically incorrect about any of this? What are we even referring to here?
And lost a child because of Biden and because of
Okay, got it.
Kamala, just as though they had the gun in their hand, because it was so
Jesus Christ.
badly handled. It should have been done at Bagram, which is the big air base. It shouldn't have been done at a small little airport right in the middle of town where people stormed it. it was a true disaster. And they asked me if I'd come and celebrate with them 3 years. 3 years. They died 3 years ago. And I said, I'm going to try. I got to know them because I brought them here, actually. One night, they almost all came here. And they said, I wonder if Trump will actually come and see us. I heard they were here. I came, so we stayed for like 4 hours listening to music up on a deck right upstairs. Beautiful. And they were great people. So they called me over the last couple of weeks and they said, we're going to have a reunion, our 3-year reunion. Would you be able to come? And it was very hard for me to do it logistically, but I said, I'll get it done. And I got there and we had a beautiful time. I didn't run away. I didn't just walk in, shake hands and walk out like people do. And I wasn't looking at my watch like Joe Biden does. And it was amazing. So I did it for them. I didn't do it for me. I don't need the publicity. I mean, I get more publicity probably than anybody. You would know that better than me, but I think maybe more than anybody that's ever lived. I don't know, but I don't think anyone could have it.
It's actually embarrassing. Like, our country's history is already shamed by the fact that this fucking retard was ever voted for president. Like, he is easily the most retarded sounding politician. I'm sure there are worse politicians. Like, one of the most retarded sounding people that have been president ever that's ever been elected. Like, it's unbelievable that conservatives stand by, like, proudly, this is your guy. The guy who actually sounds like a fucking retard. Like, holy shit. Like, you listen to presidential figures, and even George Bush speaking, like, dwarfs the amount of...
Anymore. Every time you turn on television, there's like 9 different stories, all on different topics, and they're all about stuff. As an example, you interview a lot of people, good people, successful people. Let's see how you do with this interview versus them, okay? I mean, I can tell you right now, you're going to get the highest numbers you've ever had by sometimes a factor of 10. But when a Gold Star family asks me to come in and spend time with them, and then they said, sir, we did a ceremony, and then we went down to the graves, which was quite a distance away. They said, sir, would you come to the grave? And then they said when we were there, it's very sad, actually, because...
Literally just saw someone at Destiny with a valid question, and it immediately got deleted. Limb fail. What got deleted? Hold on. View message. At Destiny, you are doing the Trumpers a favor, playing at 1.5. He sounds more normal at this speed. You need to play this at normal speed. Is that the one that you're talking about? That wasn't even a question for me. I don't even know why that got deleted. This one got deleted. Come. Okay.
These people shouldn't have died. They shouldn't have died. They died because of Biden and because of Kamala. They died because just like if they pulled the trigger, okay? Now, I don't know if that's controversial to say, but I don't think it is. Afghanistan was the most incompetently run operation I think I've ever seen, military or otherwise. They're incompetent. But the families asked me if I'd go. I did go. Then the family said, could we have a picture at the tombstone of my son? And we did. Son or daughter. There was a daughter, too. And I took numerous pictures with the families. I don't know if anybody else was in the pictures, but they were mostly families, I guess. That was it. And then I left. I spent a lot of time with them. Then I left. And I get home that night, and I get a call that the Biden administration with Kamala is accusing me of using Arlington for publicity.
The Biden admin? What does this mean? Like, Biden and Kamala are on the news, like, personally leading the charge? Have they even made statements on this? Have they? I don't even know. He didn't show the right picture?
Administration with Kamala is accusing me of...
Oh, he didn't show... You mean the thumbs up picture?
I guess. That was it. And then I left. I spent a lot of time with him. Then I left. And I get home that night.
That picture, by the way, that he took there, I'm pretty sure this is allowed in this area, where you're not allowed to take pictures of it's either new graves or the graves, but this is the one that he wasn't allowed to take. I don't know why they didn't show this one, but...
Families, I guess. That was it. And then I left. I spent a lot of time with him. Then I left. And I get home that night, and I get a call that the Biden administration with Kamala is accusing me of using Arlington for publicity. I was in news. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. And actually, did you see that just...
Oh, there was a Kamala Harris criticizes Trump over Arlington cemetery dispute. That was the title. Did the story... I don't think the story originated with Kamala, though, right? Weren't a ton of people writing about this? Because you're not supposed to do this. Why aren't you allowed to take pictures? Because you're not allowed to take pictures of the graves because you're not supposed to, like, politicize it. Which I think is basically what she is saying here. Saying the military burial site is not a place for politics.
Arlington for publicity. I was in news. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. And actually, did you see, it just came out, the families actually put out a very strong statement defending me. They said, we asked him to be there.
Well, politicians and the media can play those games. And you're right. Your name gets a lot of views. You're probably legit the most famous person in the world. But on the previous thing, in the spirit of unity, you used to be a Democrat. Yeah. Setting the politicians aside, what do you respect most about people who lean left, who are Democrats themselves or of that persuasion, progressive?
Oh my God, how is he going to answer this?
as liberals and so on.
Well, look, I respect the fact that everybody's in there, and
What? That everyone's in there?
So on.
Well, look, I respect the fact that everybody's in there, and just
What?
well, look, I respect the fact that everybody's in there, and to a certain extent, life is what you do while you're waiting to die, so you might as well do a good job.
It's just like randomly loaded scripts. I don't even know what.
I think in terms of what's happening now, I think we have a chance to save the country. This country's going down.
Wait, where was the answer? You could tell just by that. Fuck, I wish I would have paused like 2 seconds earlier. You can tell by his cadence he's about to go off into some negativity.
And I called it with Venezuela. I called it with a lot of different countries. And this country's going down. If we don't win this election, the election coming up on November 5th is the most important election this country's ever had. Because if we don't win it, I don't know that there'll be another election. And
Yeah, I think this was the issue too.
people,
They made like his campaign put out like a little TikTok video. I don't know. This is the video though.
we lost 13.
Oh, this might be the video.
Great people. What a horrible...
Yeah, I don't know why. Which fucking retard linked this in chat? I don't know why the fuck you would link this stupid fucking insider news video instead of just linking their TikTok.
We lost 13 great people. What a horrible day it was. We didn't lose one person in 18 months. And then they took over.
Bro.
The disaster, the leaving of Afghanistan.
Anyway.
It's going to be a communist country. We're close.
There's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
Well, she's a Marxist.
Her father's a Marxist,
That's right.
and she's
It's a
advocating.
little unusual. Yeah.
She's advocating for some policies that are towards the direction of democratic socialism, let's say. But there's a lot.
Did we wait? So what was the good things about the Democrats that they're in there?
There's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
Well, she's a Marxist.
Her father's a Marxist,
That's right.
and she's
It's a
advocating.
little unusual.
I don't know. I don't think her father's a Marxist. I think that was just completely and totally invented by the Trump campaign, but okay.
Because if we don't win it, I don't know that there'll be another election. And it's going to be a communist country. We're close.
There's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
Well, she's a Marxist.
Her father's a Marxist,
That's right.
and she's
It's a
advocating.
little unusual. Yeah.
She's advocating for some policies that are towards the direction of democratic socialism, let's say. But
Okay.
there are a lot of people that kind of know the way government works, and they say, well, none of those policies are going to actually come to reality. It's just being used during the campaign to, grocery.
He taught Marxist economics. First of all, I'm not even sure if he exclusively taught Marxist economics. Number one. Number two, saying that somebody teaches a class on something is not the same as saying they are a thing. That's ridiculous. Like, did you know that I had my history teacher when I was in junior high was a Nazi because he taught like things about Nazi Germany during World War II? Like, what an insane statement. No.
These are too expensive. We need them cheaper. So let's talk about price controls, and that's never going to come to reality.
It could come to reality. Look, I mean, she came out with price control. It's been tried like 121 different times at different places over the years, and it's never worked once. It leads to communism. It leads to socialism. It leads to having no food on the shelves, and it leads to tremendous inflation.
It's just
It's a bad idea.
whenever we use terms like communism for her, and I don't know if you know this, but some people call you a fascist.
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
They do indeed. It's just sometimes.
Where's the pushback for the you can't be mean to the just because they're being mean doesn't mean you can be mean, right? How much pushback did I get over that? Where's the pushback here? Oh, well, if they're going to call me a fascist, I'm going to call them a communist. Where is it? I feel like when I talked to Lex, I feel like there was like an hour-long section on him grilling me over using the word retarded. Am I forgetting this? Am I making this up?
Yeah, they do. So I figure it's all right to call them a communist. Yeah, they call me a lot worse than I call them.
They do indeed. It's just sometimes.
It's interesting, though. They'll call me something that's terrible, and then I'll hit them back. And they'll say, isn't it terrible what Trump said? I said, well, wait a minute, they just called me. So I believe you have to fight fire with fire. I believe they're very evil people. These are evil people. You know, we have an enemy from leave, then I'll hit them back. Me, a lot worse than I call them.
They do indeed. It's just sometimes.
It's interesting, though. They'll call me something that's terrible, and then I'll hit them back. And they'll say, isn't it terrible what Trump said? I said, well, wait a minute, they just called me. So I believe you have to fight fire with fire. I believe they're very evil people. These are evil people. You know, we have an enemy from the outside, and we have an enemy from within. And in my opinion, the enemy from within are radical left lunatics.
Which radical left here is being defined as the entire Democratic Party, by the way. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are the radical left.
And I think you have to fight back.
Whenever there's a lot of fighting fire with fire, it's too easy to forget that there's a middle of America that is that's moderate and kind of sees the good in both sides and just likes one side more than the other in terms of policies. Like I said, there's a lot of people that like your policies, that like your skill in being able to negotiate and end wars, and they don't see the impending destruction of America.
You know, we had no wars when I was president. That's a big thing. Not since 78 years has that happened. But
we're not, and then it's just immediately off into. Okay.
Had no wars when I was president. We defeated ISIS, but that was a war that was started that we weren't anywhere near defeating. But think of it, I had no wars. And Viktor Orban, the prime minister of Hungary, said the world has to have Trump back because everybody was afraid of Trump. Now, that's what he said. So I'm not using that term, but I think they respected me. But he said China was afraid, Russia was afraid, everybody was afraid. And I don't care what word they use. Probably that's even a better word if you want to know the truth. But let's use the word respect. They had respect for me. They had respect for the country. I mean, I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the Russian pipeline. Nobody else could have done that. I ended it. It was done. Then Biden comes in and he approved it. So we're defending Germany and these other countries for peanuts compared to what it's worth. And they're paying the person who would defend.
I don't know the history of the detail, but I wouldn't believe anything he says at face value about policy. I seriously doubt.
Them against billions and billions of dollars for energy. I said, how does that work? And we had it out with them, and it worked out good, and they paid hundreds of billions of dollars.
Is Lex correct here saying that there is a class of reasonable moderates, or is the American voter base just brain rotted beyond salvation? No, there are in real life, there are actually moderate people who might not feel super strongly about one party or the other. They're not online content creators, though. Every online content creator that describes themselves as centrist is always hardcore conservative. They're the most hardcore. They're the most radical conservatives. People that call themselves centrist online are usually far more conservative or conservative supporting than people that call themselves conservative. Like, yeah, it's not even close, with some limited exceptions.
Or you wouldn't even have a NATO right now. You wouldn't have NATO if it wasn't for me.
As the leader of the United States, you were.
Wait, what? Trump founded NATO? What a god!
And they're paying the person we're defending them against billions and billions of dollars for energy. I said, how does that work? And we had it out with them, and it worked out good, and they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. Or you wouldn't even have a NATO right now. You wouldn't have NATO if it wasn't for me.
As the leader of the United States, you were the most powerful man in the word. As you mentioned, not only the most famous, but the most powerful. And if you become leader again, you will have unprecedented power. Just on your own personal psychology, what does that power do to you? Is there any threat of it corrupting how you see the world?
No, I don't think so. Look, I've been there for 4 years.
He is the least introspective. Like, he's not even just dumb. He's also, like, boring. Like, he's, like, the worst combination of traits as a human. He has all of the worst. He's highly immoral and unethical. He's stupid. He's not entertaining or introspective. Like, sometimes you'll come across a person who's, like, kind of dumb, but, like, they're at least, like, interesting, or maybe they could be a little introspective. They're not, like, super IQ, whatever. He's just bad on, like, every level. He's just not achieving, okay, anywhere. My God.
Could have done a big number on Hillary Clinton. I thought it looked terrible to take the president's wife and put her in prison. She's
what? Like what? You literally chanted, "Lock her up, lock her up." What are you talking about? Wait, what?
You will have unprecedented power. Just on your own personal psychology, what does that power do to you? Is there any threat of it corrupting how you see the world?
No, I don't think so. Look, I've been there for 4 years. I could have done a big number on Hillary Clinton. I thought it looked terrible to take the president's wife and put her in prison.
She was investigated. They went through that whole process. Is he implying that he was also? What is the implication here, that the president could just fabricate charges against any political opponent he wants to do a big number on them? Like, there was no leniency for Hillary. She endured the entirety of the process.
She's so lucky. I didn't do anything.
Like, also, listen to this guy saying this now. She's so lucky I didn't do anything. Who now has criminal immunity, by the way, while he's operating these branches of government, or the branch of government, while these offices, right? It's actually so unreal. All of these statements are unfucking believable, okay? Don't ever forget it. Conservatives hate America. They are not patriotic, and they support a treasonous fucking pig, okay? These are not healthy Americans, okay? There is a deeply unpatriotic, deeply un-American strain of thought right now that has infected the conservative movement. These statements are wild.
Terrible to take the president's wife and put her in prison. She's so lucky. I didn't do anything. She's
Also, listen to the disregard. The president's wife? You mean the head of the State Department? What do you mean, the president's wife? Like there's just so much.
Take the president's wife and put her in prison. She's so lucky. I didn't do anything. She's so lucky. Hillary is a lucky woman because I had a lot of people pushing me too. They wanted to see something.
Yeah, who? Your fans? Your sycophants? What do you mean?
But I could have done something very bad. I thought it looked so bad. Think of it. You have the president of the United States, and you also had Secretary of State, right? She was. But you're going to put the president's wife in prison? And yet when I got out there, they have all these hoaxes. They're all hoaxes.
Like, you literally are on TV saying that, like, the DOJ needs to jail political opponents. Like, you said this. Do you not remember this?
Unless Bill Barr indicts these people for crimes, the greatest political crime in the history of our country.
These are not people pushing you to do something. This is you begging and pleading and shitting and pissing yourself on your knees, begging Barr to jail your political opponents. Like, it's all on video, but nobody cares, I guess?
Unless Bill Barr indicts these people for crimes, the greatest political crime in the history of our country, then we're going to get little satisfaction unless I win, and we'll just have to go, because I won't forget it. But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama, and it includes Biden.
But is this going to be the future of elections in America, where a sitting president tells his attorney general to indict the opponent, to try and knock the opponent down? This is what's happening.
Unless Bill...
But they have all these dishonest hoaxes, just like they did in the past with Russia. That was a hoax. The 51 different, agencies or agents, that was a hoax. The whole thing was a hoax. There was so many hoaxes and scams.
Hoaxes.
And but I didn't want to put her in jail. And I didn't. And I explained it to people. They say, lock her up. It doesn't. We won. I said, we don't want to put her in jail. We want to bring the country together. I want to bring the country together. You don't bring the country together by putting her in jail. But then when I got out, they went to work on me. It's amazing. And they suffer from massive...
Trump derangement syndrome. Say it.
Trump derangement syndrome.
True.
TDS.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's curable from their standpoint.
A lot of people are very interested in footage of UFOs. The Pentagon has released a few videos, and there's been anecdotal reports from fighter pilots. So a lot of people want to know, will you help push the Pentagon to release more footage?
How about releasing the Epstein logs? Seems like conservatives are real quiet about that whenever Trump's name comes up.
A lot of people claim is available.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I would do that. I'd love to do that. I have to do that. But they also are pushing me on Kennedy. And I did release a lot, but I had people come to me and beg me not to do it. But I'll be doing that very early on. But I would do that.
There's a moment where you had some hesitation about Epstein, releasing some of the documents on Epstein. Why the hesitation?
Oh, he brought it up. We're not gonna hold him to any of this. I'm sorry. He's gonna be like, yeah, Epstein. Now that's a guy who is he was definitely not too good, and the Democrats are just crazy corrupt when it comes to the border, and insane people are flooding into this country like we've never seen before.
I don't think I'm not involved. I never went to his island, fortunately, but a lot of people did.
Why do you think so many smart, powerful people allowed him to get so close?
He was a good salesman. He was, was a hale and hearty type of guy. He had some nice assets that he'd throw around, like islands. But a lot of big...
What a horrible choice of words. Oh, my God.
Hale and hearty type of guy. He had some nice assets that he'd throw around, like islands. But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Are you going to make it public?
Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now,
take a look at it. See if my number's anywhere in there first.
Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. They do that for danger, too, because, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
That's great to hear. What gives you strength when you're getting attacked? You're one of the most attacked people.
Great to hear.
In the world.
I think you can't care that much. I know people that care so much about everything, like what people are saying. You can't care too much because you end up choking.
One of the tragic things about life is that it ends. How often do you think about your death? Are you afraid of it?
Jesus.
I have a friend who's very, very successful.
What do you want?
Hey, do you know what your position's going to be on that WIC panel? Because I sent you 2 links that you may, I don't know if you're going to have time to take a look at it, but...
What are we like duo debating or something?
No, we're not. I was supposed to be a part of it, but I couldn't commit to the time. So I was just giving you information based on whatever position you happen to have.
I'm ready for everything.
You got it?
At this point, yeah.
Cool.
I love you, Peter.
Perfect. All right, see you, buddy. Have a good one.
And he's in his 80s, mid-80s. And he asked me that exact same question. I turned it around. I said, well, what about you? He said, I think about it every minute of every day. And then a week later, he called me to tell me something. And he starts off the conversation by going, tick, tock, tick, tock.
Yeah.
You know, this is a dark person, you know, in a sense. But it is what it is. I mean, you know, if you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it. You know, you're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven if you're good. I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. It was almost a guy.
Like he's like, I think Trump is one of the first people who would ever be president that I genuinely wouldn't care to feel like it would be an interesting conversation to sit down with. Like, obviously I would do it because he's the ex-president, but I feel like there are questions that I could ask. There are so many great questions I feel like I could ask, or I would hear great answers if I could get like in a room alone, an honest room alone, talking to Barack Obama, talking to George Bush, to like any president. There's just like huge things come up, but it's like, what are you thinking about? Like, how are you weighing what concerns? Are you thinking about how this, like, there's so many interesting questions. But for Trump, he's just an idiot through and through. He's just so stupid. Like, every single answer here has just been vapid, hollow, stupid, empty.
You know, to a certain extent, it was a guide. You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails. I'd love to see us get back to religion, more religion in this country.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for putting yourself out there, and thank you for talking today.
Look, I love the country. I want to see the country be great, and we have a real chance of doing it, but it's our last chance, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Donald Trump. To support this podcast, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, as I've started doing here at the end of some episodes, let me make a few comments and answer a few questions. If you would like to submit questions, including in audio and video form, go to lexfriedman.com/AMA or get in touch with me for whatever other reason at lexfriedman.com/contact. I usually do this in a t-shirt, but I figured for this episode, I'll keep my suit and tie on. So first, this might be a good moment to look back a bit. I've been doing this podcast for over 6 years.
The side question is, all these questions had to be approved beforehand. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, who knows?
Lexfriedman.com/.
Here, I'll link you if you guys want to watch.